Tune in.
Tune in.
Tune in.
It's the power of the game.
It's the power of the game.
It's the Power of the Game podcast by Golf Saudi.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Power of the Game podcast with myself, Robbie Greenfield. My guest in this episode is Torbjörn Johansson. He's the Director of Education at the Club Managers Association of Europe. It's a not-for-profit organisation. The CMAE is essentially designed to help individuals who work in the sports and leisure industry further their own careers, and in doing so help the industry move forward as well. The CMAE play an invaluable role in that, and they're going to be playing a very important role in the development of golf in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as they collaborate ever more closely with Golf Saudi. Torbjörn's background in sport is extensive. He's worked in volleyball, he's worked for the Swedish Rugby Federation, and latterly in golf. And I had to start this conversation by asking him what prospects there were for playing the game in the dead of winter in Sweden. His response was an emphatic one.
No, when I look out the window, I see 3-4 decimeters of snow. My 5-year-old this morning sort of went out the door and he said, "Daddy, can I jump into the lawn?" It's like, okay, yeah, sure. And he was like, half of his body was covered, so he just, yeah, no. I mean, in the southern part, yes, it's still being played. It's a big country, Sweden, but no, in most part of it, definitely not.
And how is your game? Are you a weekend warrior? Are you a low single figure handicapper? How would you describe it?
I would probably describe it right now as very non-existent.
Right.
Having 2 small kids and no, but I love to play golf. I loved it. I started playing golf while in uni, actually. I didn't play it growing up. I was a football and volleyball and handball, a lot of sports, but not golf. And then at uni, I found the game at a nice golf club called Söderfors up in northern Sweden. And then I'm hooked. I would say that on tee, I'm not the confident person. I just want to get it out there. But then around the green, I'm actually quite good. But no, single figures is, that's the goal.
Right, that's the goal. But you're not to be messed with in a putting competition then, Toby.
Well, that I can, well, I wouldn't challenge the best people, but I can, yeah, no.
Are you
good at miniature golf?
There we go. Yeah, let's dream big. But you know, you've had such an extensive background in all of sport. You mentioned volleyball. I know you spent some time with the Swedish Rugby Federation as well. What ultimately kind of drew you to this role with as Director of Education for Club Managers of Association of Europe?
Well, I've always been a fan of sort of planning ahead and then looking at the future. And when I was like 10 years old, I set my sort of goal on becoming the new Juan Antonio Samaranch. You remember Samaranch, the old IOC president of the International Olympic Committee? That was sort of, I want to be that guy. But then, of course, the dream was sort of transformed into, I want to work internationally. I would love to work with this and that. And then 7 years along the Golf Club Management Association of Sweden, the job came up, and I knew CMAE because we were an alliance partner, and I thought, hey, I've done this. I've turned a small organization into a medium size, etc. So happy to got the job 3 years ago. And now we're growing and we're doing really well. And I'm extremely happy, and I'm not looking back since.
Give us a kind of brief as to what CMAE really does for all the organizations that it partners with and that it assists and that it helps. Can you kind of give us an overview for those who aren't familiar with it, Toby?
No, sure. You said it quite right. We have alliance partners in various countries around Europe, Middle East, and Northern Africa. So we're not directly a membership organization. Our members would be a member, like in Ireland, they're a member of IGCMA, the Irish Golf Club Manager Association, and so forth. We have regions. But what we really try to define us is as an education association. We're all in it for the education, as well as being an umbrella body for club management associations in all sports, even outside sports. If you have clubs like city clubs, which is a big thing in the UK, but also some city clubs in France and UK and other countries. So for those as well, we try to sort of be a club manager association, in which we deliver, perhaps our flagship would be then the management development program, in which we help managers become the best they can be, so they can help their clubs grow or be the best they could be. But we're all in it for the education, for develop people.
And how long have you been working in the Middle East, just out of interest, and helping the clubs here? Because it's a very different culture out here, isn't it? I live in Dubai. I've lived in Dubai for the last 15, 16 years. I grew up in the UK, where the golf club model is extremely different. I mean, it's all based around a kind of membership model where the members run the club, and you know that's great, and it's very traditional, but there's obviously the need to make money, and the Middle East has always been driven by that imperative, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, like you say, because one of the things we try to talk about on the program is to sort of say, hey, making money is not a bad thing. Making money, no one should consider that being a bad thing. You can be a non-for-profit association, you can be a club that, I mean, the budget is zero or whatever it is at the end of the year, but you need to make a profit, otherwise you will die. It's just going to take a long time because you might have good funds. But yeah, the sort of a private members club on one side and the proprietary clubs on the other side, I mean, the models are different in almost all countries. There are similarities though, and those are the things we work with. We call it the 11 core competence, the 11 core competencies of being a club manager. So Chris May in Dubai would have the same 11 core competencies as Mark New in Roehampton in London. Then how they use it and how they utilize them will be very different. Like you say, depending on if you have members that actually own the club, or you have an owner or a company that owns it. But you still have to sort of run the business.
Yeah, I mean, I think the model has changed here. I think as the Middle East matures, I think the importance of kind of making sure all the numbers and the figures make sense and that they add up. It's a bit like football financial fair play, I guess. You know, the books need to be balanced now, and you can see that with all the golf clubs out here. There's that imperative to sort of make sure that they are a healthy, sustainable business model going forward. Is that something you've noticed, and is that something that you've had to tailor when kind of working with clubs in the Middle East, Toby?
No, not really. Because again, we don't physically go into the clubs. We work more with people. So they would bring that to us. And then, of course, we adapt the content of the education and so forth. But I do think that, I mean, those kind of trends happen everywhere. It's not just in the Middle East. But of course, the culture is still different. And we have a pretty flexible content that we work with. So we're not trying to put the same program in. We work with something called Kaizen, which basically say that no course we run will be the same. We always have to develop, which makes my job interesting, but also tough, because sometimes you would just, come on, can't we just copy paste sometime? But at the same time, you're like proud to say we've now done 92 week-long education training sessions, and no one has been the same. So that's part of what's fun with my job.
Well, you mentioned Chris May, Dubai Golf CEO, of course, and he's actually said that, you know, working with you guys is now essential if you're in the industry, if you want to develop your career. I mean, it's a huge testament for you guys and the work that you do. Can we break it down a little bit? Can we go into a bit more detail, Toby, on some of these education programs and what services? How are you helping professionals like Chris?
Well, it's great to get that testimonial from Chris. He is one of our certified club managers that we have. It's only 61 at the moment around Europe and Middle East. There's thousands over in America because they started a long time before us. We're a young organization, but we are growing. And our diploma that we have called the CMDip, it's becoming industry standard around Europe and Middle East, something you need to have done in order to progress your career. So for the likes of Chris, he himself have been through the program. He got he's the CEO of Dubai Golf. It means that he has a lot of people beneath him that he then puts on the program, and they see the benefit of it. What we try to do, besides create a tribe and make people understand that they're not alone, things have been done. If they're now being done in Dubai, it's been done somewhere else before. Maybe not Saudi Arabia. That's more of a black canvas that I guess we'll come back with. But what we do is a week-long education sessions where instead of us just telling them what to do, we often have people that's been in the industry for 10, 15 years. So we try to utilize what they already know, and then we put it into our content, and then we make it work for people. We discuss, we interact. We actually ideally only want them, we want to see them 1 week per year. So this is the whole sort of pyramid that we work with is at least a 5 or 6 year training session for them. And we get them to do a lot of things when they leave us, before we see them next time, et cetera, et cetera. So it's everything from leadership to marketing to governance to other things that sort of cover the sort of spectrum of being in the club industry. We have a lot of people coming on to sort of say, hey, one of the pros is that no day is the same in the club industry. And we get a lot of people coming on the program saying one of the cons by being in the club industry is that no day is the same.
No, there's never a respite.
Correct. Well, that's one of the challenges for us as well. But it's great to work with people like Chris, because he's now not just an ambassador, but also helping us develop new programs, new content.
And you're helping further the careers of industry professionals, as you say, people who work as club managers, as membership managers in the sports and leisure industry. You're giving them pathways to furthering their career fundamentally.
Yes. And perhaps our biggest USP is that it's globally recognized. And that means that we call it MDP, the Management Development Program. In other parts of the world, it's known as the BMI program. If someone would be interested in moving to Australia, you can still get benefit from what you did with us. Or if someone is moving from Australia, they will have the luxury sort of if they done BMI 1 and 2 over there, they can just go on to the number 3 with us. So, and if someone is looking to travel and find a new job, well, if you've been through the program, that will at least open doors. It won't give you jobs automatically, but the people will then know what they've been trained at, and it is global skills. So that's an amazing thing to be working with in the club industry. And like we always say, every club is like one phone call away.
Yeah, and I guess now we live in this virtual world, Toby. It's even more imperative that you guys are in regular contact. How did you mobilize when the pandemic hit last year? Obviously, it caught everyone off guard, and everyone had to adapt very quickly. And I know that it's been tremendously challenging living out here for clubs here in the Middle East to adapt and to kind of bounce back. But then there have been some positives. There's been an uptake, an upsurge in interest in things like golf out here as a result, I think, of the pandemic as well. So that's had to be catered for. Chris himself said that when they reopened Emirates Golf Club, they were absolutely inundated with people who wanted to play golf and actually return to the golf course. So how did you find last year, and how did you adapt on the hop, if you like, to sort of make sure that you could be as effective as you had been prior to that?
Well, the MDP is a residential program. So for us, it was a big hit because we were sort of known that you go to us, you go on the Sunday, you have 5 days, amazing days together with us and your fellow colleagues. And then you don't want to leave on the Friday, you sort of want to stay and have fun. And so, of course, that was tough. But I'm still really glad that we were able to go into what I was already writing on my whiteboard here at the office. I had blended learning up on that I've written down because we needed to do more things online. Having members in over 40 countries, that was necessary. And the pandemic pushed us in the right direction. We had a webinar series that were ready to go. So it's kind of interesting to sit on the other side here because I normally do the interviews with club managers around the globe, from Hong Kong to America to Iceland to Ireland, etc. It's been an amazing ride. We've done over 55 webinars now that we've sort of sent to our membership. Then we got the sort of go ahead from the global committee to do MDPs online. So for the last couple of months, we've also done a 5-day online training program, and the results have been amazing. The people have been so happy. Of course, they have nothing to compare with because the people who are on it, they've never done the MDP training before. But at least, yeah, it's not like residential, but it has its advantages. And Zoom is quite nice. I am a Zoom fan, and of course other with video streaming services as well. But yeah, we will try to go back to residential training as soon as possible without putting people in danger. But we've had a lot of good things happening this time. I'm really grateful, and I feel really humbled to get all the great feedback from our members throughout Europe, Middle East, and Northern Africa. Actually,
it's a people industry. I mean, it's built on relationships, and obviously those relationships are forged in person at conferences, and as you mentioned, the residential courses. Is there any concern that we've gone down a road where it will be quite difficult to go back to how things were.
God, we won't go back to how things were. We will go into whatever the things will be. So I'm with you on that one. So again, I'm really happy that we decided very early to try and do things online. I do really hope that we will be able to have residential programs and that people can do international travel without feeling uncertain about what's going to happen, because then we won't do it. But definitely it will be different. It won't be done in the same exact way. But whatever that new thing will be, we have to just wait and see. Hopefully we have some great vaccines coming our way, and the world can then hopefully be a better place, not just the same as before, but actually people might think a bit longer, but a bit more before doing things. At least we can hope.
We can. Yeah, we can. You're absolutely right to say we're heading into the future. We don't want to go back to where we've come from. But I suppose from your point of view, working in the Middle East and looking at Saudi Arabia as a whole, it's a very interesting proposition, Saudi Arabia, what they're trying to do here. Have you ever seen anything? Is this officially unprecedented, Toby?
Yes, I would say so. At least for the last 20, 30, 40 years, having the sort of a project of this magnitude, which combines both the building of courses, the building of clubhouses, I'm not going to say the luxury, but at least sort of you can take what everyone has learned the last 100 years and you try to make the sort of the optimal clubhouse. Just imagine if I'll talk to some people about things like this. Imagine if you could rewrite your clubhouse from scratch. You just remove it and build a new one, and people go, yes, please. Or I mean, again, with the golf courses, make a clean sweep, start over again, because an architect can do a lot of things, but miracles, that's very tough to do. And then of course with the whole sustainability strategy, people can dream of that too. But then having the resources and the man hours and the whole country behind you on it, no, never seen anything like it. And it's going to be amazing. It is already amazing to follow it from within, as we're very fortunate to be, and then to see where it goes. And also not to sort of say, well, you have to be done in 6 months, but actually have a long-term strategy and the number of people involved. I'm amazed and happy to be a part of it.
You know, Vision 2030, there's something so neat and tidy about it. Like everything is going to be done by 2030. And obviously I've lived in this region a long time. I don't doubt that the capability is there and the desire and the willpower and most importantly, I suppose the investment and the funding is there to do what they want to do. But is it achievable? Because when you sort of break it down, the numbers that they're after, there's obviously going to be about 13 new high-level, high-end golf courses designed and built in the kingdom in the next 8 or 9 years. They want 1 million locals to have tried the game of golf by 2030. They're looking at bringing in multitude of different facilities. It's not just golf courses, it's driving ranges, it's things like Top Golf. It's diversifying a kind of basically just dropping an already sophisticated and mature market onto this, as you mentioned earlier, this blank canvas. Is that feasible?
I definitely think so. With the success already now on the Top Golf in Dubai and the locals that get involved, with the interest that it already generated almost before starting the project, women and children involved, which of course was one of the big things with that entire project. I see no reason why they would change now. And again, like you say, Vision 2030, it feels good in your mouth to talk about that. And at the same time, RNA are talking about 2030. There's a lot of other projects that they'll go that way. I have no reason to doubt it, and we'll do our best to help from our side too, because of course all the organizations, companies that are involved will play their part in trying to get the numbers on the other side to work. Like you said, 1 million to have tried it might sound ridiculously high, but it's actually quite doable once you get people through the system and you work with schools, you work with this and that. I don't think it's way up there, but and if it's only 850,000, I'll still say wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you aim so high, and then yeah, absolutely. If you achieve even, as you say, 80-85% of that, it's a huge success. But
Yeah,
education.
and again, I've already seen them gathering some of the best people in the industry. They've really taken some of the best, and then trying now to really get Saudis involved in all parts of it. And that, I guess, is also the big difference that they're trying to make in Saudi Arabia, and I love it.
What's the harder challenge, Toby? And I think I know the answer to this, but the infrastructural challenge of actually building all these facilities and kind of putting the pieces, the building blocks together to creating this, or it's a much harder to pin down. It's sort of a kind of a cultural appropriation of golf, and it's not something that's ever been, something that Saudis have grown up with. Obviously, when we grew up in golfing nations where it was natural to have a go at the game and get into the game that way. That's quite hard to inculcate, isn't it?
Well, I had the pleasure of during 4 or 5 years to work with Swedish rugby, and whoever heard the word Sweden together with the word rugby?
No, I haven't.
We've definitely not grown up with it, and there was a lot of expats and people from other countries that played rugby in Sweden, and to try and sort of make it through the kids and get them to play again, that was a long-term plan without resources behind it. So and it's still doing well. It's still okay, but definitely not among the biggest sports in Sweden. Here you have the cultural aspect is so much tougher. If it wasn't for the pandemic, it would have been a very easy question to answer. Now, of course, it's a bit different because now building things suddenly becomes much more difficult. But I still go for the second one, the cultural aspect, to sort of make a country wanting to play golf, not just get them to hit the ball once and then they don't hit the ball and they don't like it and they leave. We've all been there. We've all done that. So, I mean, a wonderful sport and very frustrating sport every now and then when things don't want to do what you want to do. But I do think that with all the different pieces that are coming together, I mean, you don't change culture that quickly, but you nudge it a little piece at a time. We call it nudging. You sort of just help to push it along. And if we're then thinking it from a sort of a 10-year perspective, well, it won't happen the first 5 years. It won't happen the first 6 years. But I think it's going to come down the line of that. If they're consistent, if the pieces that, well, Ed and everyone around the team are working on, they'll get there. And it will be so interesting to follow this. But it's not going to be easy. No one has said it's going to be easy.
No, of course not. And you're right. You're absolutely. That's a great turn of phrase. That I like that, nudging it in the right direction. What are the key accelerators, Toby? Is it a breakout Saudi Arabian European Tour player? Is that something that's going to accelerate it or be a catalyst for kind of more growth, more interest?
Well, it's definitely one of the key aspects of it. It is important to have people to look up to. If you think about Sweden and football, everyone knows Zlatan. You might not love him, but all kids know Zlatan. So, of course, my 6-year-old, he wants to play football. He even asked me one evening, Dad, is Zlatan real?
No, he's a myth.
Yes. Yeah! So, of course, when Stenson had a great time, people of Sweden talked about Stenson. And of course, golf is now a public sport in Sweden. We have over 500,000 people in Sweden play golf. But over 1 million call themselves golfers. So that's also quite interesting how you measure being a golfer or a licensed player. And here in Saudi Arabia, we're talking about having 1 million people trying the sport. So that's a third way of measuring. And of course, to get kids to have fun would be the next one. We have the aspect of golf being the perfect sport to play over the generations. Getting granddad, grandmother to play with their grandkids and this and that. That will also be an important aspect to get people to understand that. But that will also take a while. So yes, I do believe you're right. If a player would make it big time, that will definitely be a part of it.
And the CMAE, can you kind of outline exactly how you're working with individuals like Ed for Golf Saudi? Is this a case of Ed going through the programs? Is it a case of all of the industry professionals within the sort of Saudi Arabian golf setup within Golf Saudi? They're all involved, are they, with the CMAE?
Yes, they are now. And what we're actually doing in Saudi Arabia is building a program for Gulf Saudi specifically, which means that we take the cultural aspects into place. We have local people helping us because, again, I wouldn't be able to write a program for Saudis because I'm a Swedish guy. I wouldn't know what to take and what to do exactly. We might have the same foundation, but we have to be specific when we go into certain countries. So in the relationship between CMAE and Gulf Saudi, we're actually developing new content for people who's coming into the industry that don't have the background. They haven't been fortunate enough perhaps to live at a golf club or to be a golf club member. They might not even understand why the white ball has all these holes in them, or, oh, an iron club. What? Yeah. So we're building it from scratch with golf introduction, an entry-level program, a supervisor program, a pre-education program before they even start the journey on the existing MDP program. So what we are building now together with Gulf Saudi, which feels amazing, is something that then can be taken to other countries to sort of help people get into the industry. But we're building it first and foremost for Gulf Saudi, for Saudis, to be done in Saudi Arabia, and that's our sort of the biggest focus now for the coming year.
What advice would you have to Saudi nationals who want to get into the golf industry?
Well, it's an amazing industry to be in. Last week, even I had an online training program, and I got all the delegates to sort of list the pros and cons of the industry, and then we take it to a vote. So I mean, everything from the venue, the where you're working, the individuals, you get to work with people on a daily basis. You have amazing opportunities in a global industry to travel and to get the tribe from every country around the world to sort of engage with you. Wherever you travel, you will have a friend. It is a place of passion, because people who come to the golf clubs are very passionate. The individuals often working at the golf clubs are passionate. So that's going to be an interesting challenge for people to understand about the passion. And you need to control the passion, because it can get out of hand. Some people don't think that it's even a job, and they're so wrong. But it's a work of passion. So it has to be controlled in the right way, because people work way too much because they love it. That's the problem. But it's also an advantage. That's what I'm saying. It's also a pro. So I look forward to having more colleagues in Saudi Arabia coming into the industry for us, and we look forward to see them all going through our program and then develop in any way direction they want to.
When I think about how journalism has changed, and even in the short time, well, actually it's not that short, but I've been doing it, it's about 20 years, so it's getting there. But obviously when I started, writing and being able to operate Word was just about enough. And what you've needed to learn over the course of the last 10, 15 years is quite dramatic, with technology playing a huge role. And I've had to work out how to use a roadcaster these last few days, which has certainly been a challenge. But what are the trends and the challenges facing industry professionals in the clubs, in the sports clubs and the sports facilities across the world, Toby? What have they had to adapt to, and where are they headed?
Well, I think you almost nailed at least one part of it, and that would be information technology. We used to talk about our 10 core competencies. 10 is such a nice figure to talk about, but it's now 11 because information technology has taken over that. So that's been added, and everyone who's in the industry now have to sort of have some sort of knowledge about it. That will not change. It will grow more, but with that growing, you have the other thing. You will be even more service focused, because ideally all the information technology will be used in the kind of way that people can do things themselves. If someone is coming to a golf club, you check in, you do all the other things yourself, so that the staff at the club can take care of you, instead of having you, okay, what's your handicap? What's this? Should I print you this? Should I? And that it's not a fun process. It should be more about, how can I help you? Have you been here before? Can I help you carry the bag? What's about this? Hey, over here we have the restaurant. Do you want a beer before? I mean, all the sort of the fun parts of the service culture, instead of, okay, you need to do this, remember that, and that's going to be a challenge as well on how you manage this. How can you get people walking around the club without a firm desk to stand behind, or and that's definitely one of the challenges. And again, the biggest competitor we have is time. It's definitely time, and that's not going to be any less time. But I do think that if you're looking at the sort of the club industry and the future, club and leisure even, this will be even more needed. People will need the breathing space. They need to, well, step away from the internet every now and then and engage with people. That we will always need. So I do still believe that the future looks very bright for the sort of the club industry.
Right. Okay. Well, that is encouraging. And you mentioned there, I mean, data capture as well, and that's such a hot topic at the moment. Our privacy and how much data we're giving to others, and big companies that are kind of surveying us or operating surveillance on us, and yet the industry is moving that way, in which I go to a golf club and people know who I am, they know my likes and my dislikes. Does that make sense? That's a bit of a fine line to be walking down, isn't it?
Yeah, it might be. The base though would be to have the relationship between the member and the club. So they would of course choose if they want to be a member of the club or not. So we're not talking about finding information online about someone. We are asking them to share it with us from a club perspective. Yes, we've had GDPR, and we still don't know what that means, what it's all about still, because we don't have any cases on it really. And then came the pandemic, and there's now even more discussions about this and that. I do believe it's all about the service culture, though. If you feel you're a member of, well, take the Bar Golf then again as a good example, and you show up at the club, and they would know, hey, Mr. Johansson, good to see you. It was great to see you last Friday. I hope you've been well. How's the wife? How's the 2 kids? That will still feel like a fantastic way to be welcome to your club, because you know that a member thinks it's their club. So
yeah, it belongs to them.
Again, which I come back to passion. It's supposed to be a passionate and good way of seeing it. I know not everyone thinks that, but yeah, it can be tough sometimes to be a manager when you have 1,000 people that think they're actually in charge of the club. But at the same time, it's a kind of a love-hate relationship, because you love them at the same time as sometimes people can just be a bit too much. But it's, again, a lot about the passion. Don't touch my club. Don't change my club. I love my club. What have you done with the second hole? It was so good before.
People do not like change. That is one thing I have learned over the last few years.
Which is kind of interesting, since the only constant in life is change.
Exactly. That's probably why people don't like it, I guess. But Saudi Arabia, let's finish on that note. I mean, sure. I've witnessed firsthand the warmth of the hospitality there, so that they've got that ingredient. They've got the blank canvas that you referenced earlier. They've got the experts on ground who are going to deliver this. Can they become a world leader in such a short space of time in golf, leisure, hospitality, in those industries? Can they achieve that in the next 8-9 years?
Wow, world leader. That's a strong statement. I would say that they can definitely achieve things that would be impossible in many other countries around the world. Would they be a sort of a haven for golfers and to come to these courses and see what's happening? Definitely. To sort of say that they will take the lead about it before everyone else, I mean, let's see. We will do our part and get the staff and the other people around there as trained as possible in order to give everyone who visits the best experience possible. If they get the Saudis in a couple of years to really engage into golf, why not? I have a hard time to see that it will be better than other countries that have golf for hundreds of years, because again, this very short distance. I mean, it's not that many years to 2030. We might think it's a long time, but suddenly it's going to be 2023, and then it's suddenly 2025, and then we're there. But basically, what I'm saying is, we will see something that we've never seen before happen in Saudi Arabia, and it's going to be amazing. Will they be the country to talk about? Yes, they will. Will they be a new sort of the new hot destination for golfers to go to? Definitely. Will people love it? They will. Will they be world leaders? Let's see.
Let's watch this space. That's brilliant.
Yeah, to be continued.
Yeah, to be continued on a future episode. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us, Toby, on the Power of the Game podcast. It's been an absolutely revelatory and very insightful conversation because, I think what they are trying to do is so unprecedented here in Saudi Arabia. And I know you guys are supporting them every step of the way. So I'm sure they're very grateful for that support. And I'm sure they're going to achieve huge things over the course of the next few years, as you referenced as well. So thanks so much for being a part of the podcast series, Toby. And I look forward to catching up with you soon. I hope the snow melts in some time so you can actually swing a golf club again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Robbie. It's been a pleasure. And again, it was interesting to be on the other side. I actually enjoy that too, rather than being the interviewer. So well done, Robbie. Well done.
Oh, thank you so much, Toby. We'll talk soon, yeah?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
A massive thank you to Torbjörn Johansson for joining us on this podcast. It's fascinating to hear about the work that the CMAE are doing, and we watch that space with interest as they continue to work very closely together with Golf Saudi. Big thanks to Torbjörn. Please do, if you'd like to catch a future episode of this podcast, please do subscribe. You can follow Golf Saudi's progress as well, golfsaudi.com, and on their social media handles. On Instagram and Twitter, that's @golf_Saudi. And please don't forget to tune back in to this Power of the Game podcast for future episodes in which we talk to the key stakeholders who are involved in driving the game of golf forward in the kingdom. Until next time, we'll catch you then.